Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Illuminati Tarot. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm kind of excited this morning because this is going to be like a different concept. This is the first video on my channel of this type. My other ones, and I don't even have that many more right now. I'm going to get more consistent with that. But my other ones are just me doing tarot readings. So, and my face isn't even in it, so this is me. And I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this or whatever, but hello and welcome. And I'll more than likely have many more videos like this. Actually, I'm thinking about calling this Tuesdays Tarot and Tea. That's the concept that I kind of want to do. And it's just kind of sitting here. I actually have some tea that I am trying out. A cup of immunity. It's a lot of citrus in here because I'm actually fighting. Well, I had a cold a few weeks ago, and now I'm just having like the post-nasal drip. I get it every time. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're still sick." I'm not still sick. Like every time I get a cold, I end up with like this post-nasal drip. Like my sinuses kind of drain into the back of my throat and makes my throat itch, and I have like this little hacking cough. It's so annoying, and it also makes me, it's super annoying. So to try to fight that and also just kind of soothe my throat, I got some, it's called Tiesta Loose Tea, and it's the immunity blend. It has citrus, all types of like citrus, mango, different types of like tropical fruits in there. It looks like it has saffron threads, but maybe I'm tripping. It might have been something else. It's got strawberry, all types of like fruits in there. Vitamin C heavy fruits. So let's hope that it infuses itself into this beautiful cup of tea, and I'll be feeling a little bit, well, I don't feel bad, but we can get rid of this post-nasal drip. So anyway, yeah, this is Tuesday Tarot and Tea. Let me taste it. Oh, it's really good. I probably could have used a little bit more honey, but I tend to really like my tea super sweet. But it's actually really good. Bad at all. But sorry if y'all see me bending like all the way down out of the camera because I don't have a table here. I need to put one here just to use at least for my YouTube videos, since I sit here to do them. But anyway, and my tea is like sitting on the floor. So yeah, again, this is Tuesday Tarot and Tea. And so essentially what this will be is just me pulling a card, tarot or oracle, and actually today it's an oracle card. I'm just going to pull a card and just see where things lead. I actually have something in mind that I want to talk about, but depending on what the oracle pulls or what the oracle gives me, I may or may not. If it takes us into a different direction, then, you know, not even going to worry about it. But if it seems to resonate with what's on my mind right now, then I will definitely go ahead and put it in this video. And again, if I don't talk about it in this video, then I'll talk about it in another video, because it's definitely something that I want to talk about. Anyway, I won't get too far. We'll go ahead and pull a card. Let's see what message this oracle has today. And this is my sacred geometry deck. My favorite oracle deck. It just always seems to resonate. It just always seems to really pull out that inner energy, like the energy that, like what came out for us, but the energy that you don't, that subconscious energy, it really just does a really good job of pulling that out and helping you make sense of it. Let me get my booklet because I don't always know the definitions of these cards. This is interesting because it really seems like it might align with what I am wanting to talk about today. But again, if it doesn't, I'm not even going to mention it. I'm going to grab my booklet though to get a clear understanding of this card. Okay, so like I said, I was going to consult my book here to see exactly what this card is all about. And here's a better view of it. It's the Dancing Prayer. And you see, it's such a beautiful card. It looks like it's the backdrop is a flower of life, and it's a being almost on fire. If you see, it kind of goes up from the chakra system, but it doesn't actually denote the chakra system, but you can see it goes like from the root chakra all the way up to the seventh one. And it just looks like he's on fire. And then, of course, at the seventh chakra, the one that is, about our connection and our higher consciousness, you see there's like that swirl action there, and he looks to be dancing. And the meaning behind this card is actually Kundalini spirit, like being awakened by passion and connecting all that energy to our higher selves, right? And connecting our energy to our higher selves and being passionate about something, being, overjoyed and feeling strongly connected to something. And that's what this card is all about. Just reigniting. If you haven't been feeling like you are connected to something or passionate about something, it's really about finding that connection. That's the reverse meaning of it. It's kind of like losing your passion or not knowing what your passion is. And so it's a very positive, very happy card. Just calling us forth to find what brings us joy, right? Find what makes us happy and connects us to higher consciousness and connects us to the universe and other people. That's what passions do for us, right? That's what brings us the most joy. Typically, the things that bring us the most joy are things that connect us to the universe or connects us to other people, but feeling connected in some kind of a way. So that's what I get from this card today. Also, and I might just be forcing it because I want to talk about it so bad. I'm just looking here, and it's I see the word prayer, and I see just this, again, connection to a higher dimension, a connection to a higher source. And so I wanted to talk about the Akashic records and certainly not a discovery, because it's something that clearly not everybody else, but people who had a strong understanding of the Akashic records understood, but it was my realization, I put it that way. So just a quick story. I was researching. I don't have ADHD, but I will quickly go from like one thought and it will turn into something completely different. And so I was Googling, or I was on Etsy or somewhere just looking at tarot because I want a new tarot deck. And so I was just, researching some and looking at some, and I know the one that I think I want to get. So I can't wait to get that one and then share that one with you all. But in that, I started just looking into other divination tools. you know, like the runes and the pendulum and cartomancy and just different tools of divination. And the Akashic records came up, and I have like a weird relationship with the Akashic records. Like and not even a weird relationship, like I just fully did not believe that they were a thing, because I typically don't see these spiritual practices and divinations the way most spiritual people see them, right? And I will probably talk about that in a different video, but I just typically feel and see them a little bit differently than probably most people who deal with it. And by that, I'm an atheist. So, well, I'll say I'm an agnostic atheist. And so there are just certain things I'm really skeptical about, and certain things I just don't believe in. But I have not been able to deny like the power of tarot. And I'm sorry if you hear maintenance people are outside cutting grass and stuff, so I apologize for the noise. But right, so I typically look at divination just in a general sense, and like I said, I'll go into this maybe in a different video, but I just kind of look at it like tarot, for instance, has been life-changing for me, but I don't see it necessarily as divine or like angelic messages or anything like woo or spooky or strange. I really just see it as like a very strong psychological tool, but I do believe in like a connection to higher consciousness. So I believe that some way we're able to tap into our higher selves to receive messages and to get understanding on things in ways that we would not have been able to just thinking about it under normal circumstances. And I think that the tarot cards, the imagery and the subjectivity of them just help us to, those thoughts that we have deep in our minds or the thoughts that seem scattered, they help us to bring them together in a way that makes sense. And I feel like that's our own power doing that. And that's just my thought, okay? And I'm new to tarot, relatively new to the spiritual journey. I mean, I've been on I guess you can say a spiritual journey outside of Christianity for about 5 or 6 years. So I'm a baby, but this is just kind of the way I think about things. So with that being said, getting back to the Akashic records. So they just seem really woo for me, like way too much, way too iffy, way too shifty. It was just not, it did not resonate with me. And I honestly had just dismissed them like, okay. And not saying people were crazy or anything like that. They just did not resonate with me, did not make sense to me at that time. And this was a couple of years ago. And so I just kind of basically, they're really interesting concept, very cool concept. But I basically just decided that that was not something that I wanted to spend my energy on, because I just didn't believe it. And just in case you don't know what the Akashic records are, and this is a very layman's, very generalized meaning or generalized explanation of what the Akashic records are. And they essentially are a higher dimensional record or account of records for everything that was, is, and will be in the universe ever. Like past, present, future, every occurrence, every possibility of every occurrence, from what you ate yesterday to how you will feel Tuesday at 5:01 p.m. in the year 2036. Like, there's apparently a record for all of these things, for every occurrence of everything in the universe that ever will be. And that is a massive, just a massive concept. Something is it's hard to wrap your mind around, like, what that really entails. However, so again, like, getting back to the rest of the story, so I was just looking up different divination tools, and the Akashic records came up. And so I was like, let me, since I've kind of reawakened spiritually, I'll say, I just wanted to get back into just opening my mind, right? Just not being so dismissive of things that I may not have understood before, or may not have given a chance to before. And so I wanted to backtrack. And so I just spent, this was like at 1:00 in the morning or something. So I just spent some time looking into the Akashic records and what they were and what they meant. Trying to get a more in-depth explanation, finding out how people are accessing them, just everything. Look at it, it's 11:11. I've been seeing that constantly over the last couple of years, and this over the last 3 or 4 months, every day I see it in the morning and at night, or I see like 1:11 in the afternoon or early in the, it's crazy. Anyway, so so yeah, just taking in a little bit more information. I still have a lot more to go. I actually am going to download a couple of Kindle and Audible books on it that have like really good reviews to get more information about it. But yeah, so I was looking it up and looking at a couple of different definitions, and then one of them explained it in a way that just went in my mind, like my mind lit up when I heard the explanation. And I'll tell you why. But it was just that, okay, I know it's an account of everything in the universe that could ever happen, will ever happen, is currently happening, did ever happen, for everything, every object, every person, every feeling, every noise, every whatever. It's a full account of the entirety of the universe and that meaning, right? And that they are accessible in a way that they are not, that time, I'll say that way, time is accessible in a way that it isn't in our dimension. So just knowing, we live in 3 dimensions. Our consciousness, current consciousness, our everyday consciousness, and the way that we experience the world is in 3 dimensions plus a dimension of time. So, we have depth, width, height, which allows us to move, in multiple directions, and then we experience time. But we are not able really to access time. We can experience it. Slowing down, speeding up. But we just, as in an everyday societal sense, we have not come to any mechanisms or any methods or techniques that will allow us to go backwards in time or forwards in time. We only can exist in the moment, right? So every moment passes, and that's how we experience it. We can think about the past and we can make predictions or consider the future based on, past circumstances and how they look and how they're playing out now, and then what it'll be like in the future. But essentially, we're stuck here right now. Like, every moment is all that we have. In the 4th dimension, and this is, now I'm getting into science, and I kind of compartmentalizing here for a reason, but in the 4th dimension, it is thought that time is as accessible as me walking to the next room. You know what I mean? So time might be a physical thing. So of course we know in the fourth dimension there's another dimension of space. If you in this, I'm getting into like quantum mechanics, or not really, more like quantum mechanics and physics and stuff like that. Quantum physics, I guess you could say, or whatever. And I'm really into that type of stuff, but I'm not even going there right now. I'm just trying to stay focused on this one thing. I'm just really excited about it. But so we know in a higher dimension, if we were to move one step up, we would get another spatial dimension, the one that we have no way of even conceiving in our minds in this dimension. But there's another spatial dimension, and time would be accessible. So everything exists at once. Time is, I can just point to it and go there, or whatever. I mean, it literally could be something that we could touch. It could be, right? And so when I heard the explanation of that, time was kind of a flat circle. It was in when talking about the Akashic records, time is something that is an accessible feature of higher dimension. So right now we live in 3 dimensions plus time. So you could say we kind of live in 4 dimensions, but time is kind of fleeting for us. It's not something that we can do anything with necessarily. We can only experience it. And so in a higher dimension, you could say that this is actually 5 dimensions. So 4 spatial dimensions, and then time being a 5th dimension, but it's a dimension that you have more access to. So you can, it's all one thing. It's just, it is. It just is what it is. And so when it clicked in my mind that this is what the Akashic records were talking about, like the word Tesseract came to mind. Like, it's a Tesseract. And so that, for me, just being someone who is like a skeptic at heart and a science girl, like I'm an enthusiast for like quantum physics and quantum mechanics and astronomy and astrophysics and anything to do with science on that level. I love it, right? I'm a connoisseur of those things. And so when I find connections between these ethereal, spiritual concepts and they show up scientifically, it just blows my mind, and it creates a connection for me that I can understand and that I can feel a part of, so again, like the Akashic records just felt far. They just did not seem like a concept that I could really wrap my mind around or even accept. I put it that way, like I was dismissive of them. But when I got that explanation and I related it to it being a Tesseract, and that's essentially, I don't know if any of you have watched Interstellar. It's one of my favorite movies. But at the end of Interstellar, sorry, spoiler alert. But at the end around the end of the movie, I can't even think of his name right now, but the guy goes through Gargantua, which was a black hole star, and he gets caught up in this black hole. He ends up falling over the event horizon into the black hole. He does not die. He goes into 4th dimensional space, but it was constructed for him by whoever the people or beings were, whoever had access to control 4th dimensional space, gave it to him in a way that he could see, that he could understand it, right? So here he is in this Tesseract, this 3-dimensional Tesseract now, because again, he's still a 3-dimensional being. and these fourth dimensional beings delivered him this tesseract in a way that he could use it to communicate with his daughter from, back where she was at a particular time. And it gets crazy, it gets comedy. If you've never seen it, I do recommend watching it. It is so wild, and every time I watch it, I get something new from it. So anyway, so the Tesseract essentially is fourth dimensional space, and it is what gives, if we were fourth dimensional beings, it is what would give us access to these different points of time, like pulling it off the shelf like a book. And essentially that is what the Akashic records are. And that literally just blew my mind. And I've just seen, so since I've thought about that, like it makes so much sense now, and it doesn't seem so far-fetched. It doesn't seem like it's just so, and the more I learn about these spiritual concepts, and the more I allow myself to delve into them and take them in, like the more I realize how much, and I love science, do not get me wrong, I'm still science heavy. I believe strongly in science over, stuff that's not backed by science. However, what I've come to understand is that many of these deep, ancient spiritual concepts, science just lagged behind. However, I do believe that science gives us a picture that it helps the layman understand. Like, it gives us a tangible understanding of these concepts that people already, that, monks and gurus and, those who have reached nirvana and these ancient spiritual teachers understood centuries, millennia ago, and we are now finally, science is catching up and able to explain, or even not just explain, but discover it and then explain it to us, in a way that people like me, I'll say, can understand and can take it in. So that's just my take on it. So now I'm just like, what do I do with this information? So I'm thinking, do I want to try to, I'm definitely going to research some more. Like I said, I got a couple books that I want to get through, like read or probably just listen to on Audible, to get a fuller understanding of it. I just really want to understand it, because also I know that things get lost in translation, and the word Akasha, which is where Akashic comes from, the word Akasha, in a general Eastern religious concept or spiritual concept, means essentially that God remembers, right? So it's the knowledge of God is what Akasha means, and it's assumed to be Sanskrit, and of Hindu origin. But it may actually be even more complicated than that, as far as, culturally, just having connections to many different Eastern, like most concepts and most religions, they're not independent of each other the way we try to make them seem. Like they all are connected in some way. They just kind of all have a different flavor, and then they take on, they branch out from the original, and then they take on its own, they become a tree of its own. So I just want to make sure that I have a full understanding of what Akashic even really means, because it came, it was popularized, and the term Akashic records came from white people. And so, we know that when the Western world gets its hands on certain things get lost in translation, they get watered down, or they get blown out of proportion. And I just want to make sure I have an understanding of what it was even supposed to be in the first place, but it makes a lot of sense now. It makes sense to me now. And I think what's most convincing about it for me is just that it's such an ancient concept, right? It possibly is the term itself, the Akashic records, is at least dated back to like the 19th century. And I can't get into a whole lot because I don't know a whole lot about it, but there was a lady who wrote a book about it, or who was talking about how she had talked to, monks and Buddhist and Buddhist monks, what am I saying? Buddhist monks and, people who studied Eastern religions and practice Eastern religions, and how the concept came from them. And she said that they told her it was from Akasha, or it was from essentially like these universal records, the way that they were able to obtain this knowledge. And so I guess in her talking to them and her, doing whatever she did, she came up with the term and the concept of came up with the term Akashic records. And so, and this was back in the 19th century, when I'm not real sure that the concept of a Tesseract was something that would have been common knowledge or knowledge at all. I have to go back and look and see, like, of course there were, advanced thinkers back then of certain things, but whether or not the fourth dimensional space and a Tesseract would have been something that was a concept back in the 19th century or mid-19th century or early 19th century, I don't really know. So, but again, like, what is very convincing is just that, the concept is so old, and it matches like the modern scientific understanding of like how four dimensions would work. And like, this isn't something I'm just like making up as far as the scientific aspect of it. Like, this is, you can Google or look on YouTube for Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about like what the fourth dimension would look like, what, one step up in a dimension would look like, and in time being something that is just there, not something that is experienced in slices, past, present, and future, but it's just all one thing, and everything's happening all at one time, and that's just the best way that we can understand it, the way that we can describe it. But let me know if you have had any experiences with the Akashic records. I know that there's supposed to be some kind of way to meditate and enter the headspace to access them. There's like a prayer or I'll say a mantra or something that you can, supposedly say to gain access to the Akashic records, and that the beings bring that information to us. And maybe in another video I'll even go into like how this plays into the idea of ancestor, communicating with ancestors, the afterlife, all of that. I'll do that probably in a separate video, just because I don't want to make this one too long. I know it's getting around probably 35-40 minutes right now. So, but yeah, if you have any experiences with the Akashic records and you're watching this, please let me know your experience. If you know any other details or any other information, if you had made the connection between the Akashic records and Tesseract or higher dimensional space, let me know your thoughts on it. If this is a new concept to you, let me know your thoughts. Again, I didn't drink a lot of tea, but yeah, this is we didn't talk a whole lot about tarot, but definitely let me know, and we will definitely talk about it. Maybe I'll make this a separate thing that we'll talk about, separate from the Tuesday tarot and tea. But thanks so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you again very soon, and we will talk and do what we do. Again, thanks. This has been Illuminati Tarot. I am Cash Illuminati. Find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. And I will see you guys later.